Hey, it's me, Hippie Hoodneck. I'm trying this talking to the camera thing, but more importantly, I want to show you how sick I really am. That this excites and delights me. Uh, this one here, fucking treasure from today. Piece of cedar, super aromatic, beautiful. This piece here. Got a little water damage, a little decay. That's why that grain is popping like that. And then these are just beautiful, beautiful specimens here as well. I'm gonna be trying to learn to talk to the camera a little bit more. It's not really my thing. Neither really is this creating thing, but here we go. Anyway, thanks to my 40 subscribers so far. Super awesome that people want to listen and see what I'm up to. So if you're one of those people, please like, follow, subscribe, all the things that we do here on the social interweb. And I look forward to being able to go live. I got a lot to talk about, and some of it's even worth hearing. Anyway, my passion, love it, super stoked. 4 pallets made me thoroughly happy, especially the cedar finds and the unique colored grain gets my heart all jumpy. Anyway, much love. Hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Like, follow, subscribe, all those things I'm supposed to say. Take it easy.
Sawing logs, and he sawed more logs than anybody had ever sawed. It was fantastic, but it was all done in one day. So the next day, put him on to mending fences, and there were all kinds of broken fences. One day. Those that we use for seeding, and those that we throw away. So he left him at that. At the end of the day, the laborer came back and said, "Well, that's enough, mister. I quit." So when we decide, we're always worrying, did I think this over long enough? Did I take enough data into consideration? And if you think it through, you find you never could take enough data into consideration. The data for a decision in any given situation is infinite. So what you do is, you go through the motions of thinking out what you will do about this. And then when the time comes to act, you make a snap judgment. I mean, I'm speaking a little extremely, making some fun of it and so on, because after all, we do occasionally get the vague outlines of things and make a right decision on rational grounds. But we fortunately forget the variables that could have interfered with this coming out right. It's amazing how often it works. But warriors are people who think of all the variables beyond their control and what might happen. delegate authority.
Super excited. Hope you can
Trust
see
others to
that.
work for.
Gnarly,
Because those are people developing
gnarly,
businesses
wood
on the
damage,
same
half
basic
punky,
structure that
crazy
is fundamental
grain
to a living organism.
in there.
Delegation of authority.
Was a piece or two of cedar in there.
It loves and
It's gonna be
nourishes all
beautiful.
things, but does not lord it over them. And you see,
And the best one of the day.
you let go of it and trust it. As if it were quite other. The more to self. No go. If, on the other hand, you can find it through giving self, that is control, Mr. Tocqueville said that democracy is always right, but for the wrong reasons. Because there is operating in a democracy the principle that Buckminster Fuller calls synergy. And synergy is the intelligence of a highly complex system, the nature of which is always unknown to the individual members. Because that goes back again to this point, that we're always entering a new environment. We don't ever know fully what the new environment is, because the only environments we know are the past ones. There's and we're not aware of it until after it's happened. Sail from South America to he discovered that all sorts of unexpected factors cooperated. That when the wood got wet, it expanded, so that the ties bit into it and held
Sexiest
it.
thing of the day. Beautiful.
And he found that as he sailed along,
Smells good.
flying
Super
fish
aromatic.
simply a light flat on the deck.
Oftentimes
every
these
morning.
pallets are the ugliest pieces.
All kinds
Knotty,
of natural
gnarly,
factors. He'd touched
just
the key
about
where he was
unusable.
flowing with the
And that's
course of
part of
nature.
the fun of
Everything
tearing them apart
cooperated.
and making them into
He
something.
touched the key.
Still practicing this talking to the camera thing. So
So we do come out of this
bear with me.
way of thinking to something which has, I would say, the most enormously creative and revolutionary social consequences. Hardest practical politics. it has become this kind of to learn how to enjoy it. Why? Because in an age of leisure, people have really got to know how to enjoy themselves. Because if they don't, that's the whole future of the human race. A utopia has become not some sort of a dream, but an urgent necessity. We can't do without it. Because if we try to do without it, what's going to happen is that we are going to terminate bickering and right and left has become irrelevant.
I take these apart in different ways all the
Because we
time.
now have the opportunity.
These are going to be used as shells. That's why it was so cool to find these non-slatted ones where they're not gappy. They're kind of perfect, like Johnny on the spot panels.
To take the risk
Super cool.
of doing what we want.
Also, if you hear that
Which will
ka-ching,
work.
ka-ching, ka-ching,
To the
that's
extent that
my
we
trusty
realize that
Diablo.
what
I don't know if I'm
basic,
allowed to shout
what
out
I really
products
want
or
is
how all
what you
that stuff works, but
and I don't know.
Diablo is ripping through easy a few hundred nails on one framing blade. And of course DeWalt power for life.
But that's the kinship between I and thou. So when I ask, I go when Bodhidharma, which is another form of the same question, he said, I don't know. Planting flowers to which the butterflies come. Bodhidharma says, I know not. Reach the state of desire. When you really don't know. You see, there's a beginning stage of not knowing. In the end you say, no, I don't think that's it. I might be satisfied with it for a while, and I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. Why don't you really knife doesn't cut itself, fire doesn't burn itself, light doesn't illumine itself. It's always an endless mystery to itself. I don't know. And this I don't know, uttered in the infinite interior of the spirit, this I don't know is the same thing as I love.
believe we got our money's worth out of that blade.
Because you're wasting
Poor
energy
thing.
all the time.
Another beautiful piece. If you're getting tired of looking, you should have left the video already. Thanks for your time. That's my pallet breakdown and the end of my first time speaking to the camera on purpose. Thanks for the view. Like, follow, all that stuff. Thanks. I'm just gonna finish a little teardown. Kind of a boring video, but I'm gonna shoot it anyway. I like to try and use everything I get into, except for those rails I cut off. It's all about reduce, reuse, recycle, taking trash and turning it into something functional and beautiful.
Just a view that you hold, or a belief that you hold. It's so curious that the emphasis of the Western tradition in religion is primarily upon right belief. Do you believe in the right dogmas and the right doctrines? And only secondarily upon right action. Because what you believe is, in Christianity at any rate, far more important than what you do. Because one is saved through faith, not by works. And early in its history, the Christian church rejected the movement in the church which had been known as Gnosticism, from the Greek gnosis, which means knowledge. And in a way, there were some sound reasons for doing so. Because the Gnostics were what I would call anti-materialists. They divided human beings into three classes that were called, respectively, pneumatic, psychic, and hylic. The last one being H-Y-L-I-C, from the Greek, hyli, or they would call it now, ili, meaning wood. So the people were spiritual, psychological, and wooden. And that is to say, the wooden people were those most absorbed in materiality and most closely identified with their bodies. And Orthodox Christianity rejected this sort of distinction because of the perfectly correct idea that material existence is not inconsistent with spirituality. This is something which most Christians have forgotten. But they do believe as the central principle of Christianity in what's called the incarnation. That in Jesus of Nazareth, Almighty God did in fact become material, become human. And by this process, initiated a transformation of the cosmos. In the words of St. Athanasius, God became man, that man might become God. And you don't hear that from the pulpit very often. The Christian Church therefore emphasized pistis, or faith, as against gnosis, or knowledge. Because they said you can never know God. God could never become an object of knowledge. And in this funny roundabout way, the Christian theologians were saying exactly the same thing as the Hindus. Only the Hindus do call this knowledge of God through faith, they call it jnana, which is the same as the Greek word gnosis. But just to give you a little sidelight on how words get mixed up in their meanings, we now have a class of person called an agnostic. And an agnostic generally means a person who doesn't commit himself to any beliefs about the ultimate nature of things. He just says he doesn't know. But the original word, agnosia in Greek, meant a special kind of knowledge. It was called the dark knowledge of God. The knowledge of God in the cloud of unknowing, to use the title of a mystical treatise written by an anonymous 14th century English monk. This monk derived his ideas from a very mysterious figure who wrote under the name of Dionysius the Areopagite. Dionysius was a 5th or 6th century Syrian monk who had learned his mysticism from Porphyry, who got it from Plotinus, who was a Neoplatonist, and who probably got a great deal of stimulation from the intellectual world of Alexandria. And Alexandria, in the early years of the Christian era, was a tremendous exchange place between East and West. Buddhist monks visited Alexandria. It was one of the great centers of trade between Rome and India. And as you may know, all Rome's gold eventually went to India for the purchase of pepper. And as a result of this, the Roman economy collapsed. They bought too much luxury from India. India, in exchange, got Roman architecture.
Sorry. Planes keep flying over.
You see a lot of Roman architecture.
Stay up, stay sober. Much love. Listen to Alan Watts.
But
that's all I got.
Was the great center
Have a good afternoon. Love y'all. Sorry, I was just having a good chuckle here at my reclaimed wood efforts and how the reclaimed wood projects have become a common thing, so much so that finding pallets can be tricky, and now we'll actually sell you the pallets, broken down, beat up pieces of pallets at some Home Depots. Sometimes I spend more time breaking the pallet down than to actually build the piece or to get the pieces of wood from said pallets that I want to incorporate into a piece can definitely outweigh the time building as opposed to claiming the wood. So keep claiming, keep upcycling, don't buy Home Depot's pallet wood. I just wanted to show another couple minutes of all that goes into this. Also, super cool. These are rough milled 1x. I feel like I can spot these at 50 miles an hour down the road if it's a good pallet or not. And this is just my extra stuff. I'm gonna start banging nails out of it. If anybody wants to come help me bang nails, hit me up directly. And there's no shortage of nails to bang out. So, come on, help me.
This is often believed in India. If you go to the Vedanta Society and ask what do you mean by Nirvikalpa Samadhi, they will tell you that the one in that state has no consciousness whatsoever of the sensory world. That he is completely absorbed, as you sometimes see Hindu holy men sitting in a state where they are blind and deaf to everything going on around them. The founder of Chinese Zen, known as Huineng, described people like that as no better than pieces of rock and lumps of wood. Said it's a very serious mistake indeed to confuse sunyata, the Sanskrit word for the great void, which is both the ultimate reality and the consciousness thereof, that it's a great mistake to confuse it with nothingness. It is rather to be thought of as space, or like space, because space is not empty. It contains the whole universe. So in the same way, the state of mind of a person who is truly enlightened is not empty. It contains everything. But, like space, it is not stained by what it contains. It's often said in Zen imagery, you can't hammer a nail into space. You can't spit on the sky and soil it. If you try, the spit will just return and hit your own face. So they go on to say the consciousness in all of us, your basic mind is like space. It is completely pure. But of course, by purity, they don't mean unsexual, which is of course what purity generally means in the Western world. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. A person who's pure in heart is generally understood as one who never has any naughty thoughts. You know what naughty means? It means vain, negative, empty. A naughty person, therefore, is one who doesn't amount to anything. It's just nothing. That's the real meaning. But this misunderstanding of the nature of contemplation existed not only in India, from which it was transmitted to China, but
That's
also
called
in the West.
checking. When the wood is
read many
split,
treatises
a lot
on
of times
Western
pallets
mysticism.
are brittle.
And the still
You
feeling
know,
that
lower
getting
end,
into a
naughty.
deep trance,
So sometimes there's
sometimes
not much
called rapture.
salvage to be had. Kind of like this.
again, the word rapture,
But it
has
makes
undergone
hella
some
campfire
transformation.
wood.
We talk about rapture as people being beside themselves with pleasure. But to be rapt means to be taken away from the body. So also ecstasy, we now interpret as meaning in a state of high pleasure. But it means to be outside yourself, to stand outside yourself. Your soul has left you, it is with God. As Arabs say of all crazy people, be kind to them. They're not here, their soul is with God. But actually, if it can be true, as Buddhists say, that nirvana and samsara are one, and if it can be true, as Christians say, that the spirit can be made flesh, the word can be made flesh, then obviously the highest form of man is not sitting in a trance like a lump on a log, with a perfectly blank mind. Because if that were the highest state of consciousness, it would be an exclusive state of mind. A state of mind that shuts out life. And in that sense, it does not qualify for being what the Hindus call non-dualistic. They always speak of the highest reality as being not one, because one excludes many. Not nothing, because nothing excludes something. Not being, because being excludes non-being, and vice versa. And so they use this word non-dual to mean that which doesn't exclude anything, which, as it were, has no outside. As we say, space has no outside. You can only have outsides inside space. You don't have any outsides outside space. There is no outside in space, even though space may be curved and finite. So, if you want to think incidentally of that curved space, go and take a look at a photograph in the Life book on mathematics, where there's a picture of a Klein bottle, which is a three-dimensional Möbius strip. A Möbius strip, you know, is a piece of paper that is twisted once and then joined. It has only one side, only one edge. Our Klein bottle is a three-dimensional Möbius strip, and it only has one inside. It has no outside. You can say it has an inside and no outside, or it has an outside and no inside. It's a fabulous trick. But there's something like that would be the nature of space, as that which does indeed transcend the opposites. Not quite. No, we'd have to do one extra move on the circle to make it into a Klein
through the side of its skin, and make the aperture through the mouth continuous with the inside of the serpent towards the tail, you see. That's more or less what a Clyde bottle is. So, what I'm getting to, I'm giving you something out of the general history of religions to show that
I'm not gonna make you watch any more of that because it's boring as hell. I really was just maybe trying to soak you in a little Alan Watts for this afternoon. If you've watched this far, again, I appreciate you. Thanks for the follows and the likes, and tell me about it. Do you hate it? Do you love it? You got a better way to get the nails out? Let me know. And yeah, much love. Later.
Something I once had. So he doesn't say anything.
Give me the love. Ooh, just give me the love.
He doesn't indicate anything positive.